This is how to make a ragget. There are two pieces of cut fabric. One is for the front, and the other is for the back of the doll. First, grab one piece and check the inside and outside of the fabric. The side where the pattern is clearly visible is the surface of the fabric. Then, place the outer side on the top. This is a label that will be placed on the side of the doll. The placement of the label from the bottom is about 7 centimeters above from the foot. Please mark the point lightly to wash the mark later. We recommend using water erasable pens. Check the cut, then fold the side of the label. The folded side should be facing the inside of the doll. Align the sides here. Then the cut edge should be placed even with the body's edge. The bottom edge of the label is placed on the marking. Please fix it by the pins. This is a reminder. This surface is the outside of the fabric. The label will be fixed onto the outer part of the fabric. Now, take the other body piece. We will face the inside of the fabric upwards. The inside of the fabric does not show any pattern. Draw a sewing line around the doll. The stitch line is 8 centimeters away from the edge of the fabric. Leave 5 centimeters from the filler hole. Draw the line around the edge. Please draw the curves and bends of the face and arms as instructed. Draw exactly along the cut edge. The shape is very important to make the doll pretty. The armhole has the sharp curve like in the figure 1b. Draw the sewing line same as the cut edge shape. Take the body fabric with the attached label and place it together. Face the outsides of the fabric on top of each other. Please overlap the two fabrics together. Pin the two fabric together so it will not move while sewing. Leave the filler hole open. Start the back stitching from here. Sew along the line using the back stitch. This is a 90-degree curved point. We will turn the sewing here. Please sew by the point where it is curved. Sew by the point and turn. Resew after turn. We will make the clipping seam allowance later. This part should be sewn carefully to avoid cutting off the stitching line. Do the same here. Sew the point where it is curved and turn the fabric to make an angle stitch. Attach the label by sewing the 4 layers fabric together. For every cornered point of the stitching area, turn the dough fabric to make an angle stitch. Keep stitching towards the filler hole. Sew up to the filler hole and finish. Secure a knot. Now, we will clip the seam allowance. Please check our paper instructions for the points to clip. Here is the sewing line. When clipping the seam allowance, leave 2 mm cut from the sewing line. Be careful not to cut too close to the stitching line. See paper instructions for more details. When you have a concave curve or an interior corner which needs to be turned right side out, you will need to clip to release the tension of the seam allowance. Reverse the fabric through the opening. Check the shape of the doll. Draw sewing lines on the boundary of the ears. Draw sewing lines on the boundary of the armholes. We will stitch over this line after filling with fiber using the running stitch. First, we will fill the fiber into the ears. Break up the fiber fill to avoid lumps in the doll. Fill in the ends of the ear first. When adding fiber fill, push the seam allowance all in one direction for a better end result. Fill the ears with enough fill to make it plump. Adding too much fill will make the ears look distorted. Fill the fiber fill up to the sewing line. Push the fiber fill in and hold the filling. Now apply a running stitch on the sew line. We will apply the running stitch here, or pin it to hold fiber fill. Sew along the line using the running stitch. Take the two ends of the thread and fold the thread in half. Then take the two clean-cut ends of the thread and thread the needle. Pull the thread until the loop end is 2/3 as with the loop end longer. Pull the needle out and put the needle into the loop. It will then be tightened without a knot. Sew along the line using the running stitch. The reason we sew here is to prevent the fiber fill to move around the body after watching. Stitch 1 or 2 fibers from the fabric in the same spot to create a tight tie without a knot. Insert the needle between the body fabric layers, away from the thread, and cut the thread as short as possible. Stretch the fabric to make the end of the cut thread hidden in the body. Shape the ear. Fill the other side as well. Repeat the previous steps. Now, fill the arms with the fiber fill. Repeat the same steps as the ears. Use the same hidden knot stitch we used previously with the ears. Sew along the line using the running stitch. Make a small stitch and pull the needle out through the loop. This will create a knot. Stitch 2 small running stitches in the same spot to create a tight tie without a knot. We completed the ears and arms. Now, fill the entire doll with the fiber fill. Fill the farthest side point first. Make sure the seam allowance should be in one direction when adding fiber fill. Check the doll shape. We will close the opening applying the slip stitching. The slip stitch, also called a ladder stitch or an invisible ladder stitch, is a useful hand sewing stitch to close a seam. Foldo 8 cm seam allowance inward. We will stitch along the side seam. Sew the fabric from one side to the another side using small stitching. We will start stitching with the loop end. Here is the opening end. The starting point is 5 cm away from the opening edge. It should overlap the existing stitch. Start stitching with the loop method. Move the needle to the other fabric and make a small stitch. Stitch the same way on the other side of the fabric. Keep the same stitch width for both, and repeat until you finish a seam. Please stitch over the opening edge 5 cm to overlap. This will avoid any broken stitches in the future. Secure the knots. Make one more knot. Pull the needle through the doll, away from the knot, and cut it. When cutting, make sure to pull the thread tightly so that there is no string remaining after cutting. Shape the doll. Now let's give the doll a face. First, let's draw some eyes, nose, and the mouth shown in the instructions. As in the previous step, we will use a loop secure knot technique. Fold the thread in half. Thread a needle, longer half on the loop side. We'll start the embroider from the right eye. Pull the needle out and put the needle into the loop. Fill the empty space inside the eye by sewing back and forth. Using back stitching, make a small circle outside of the eye. When you're done, move towards the other eye. Repeat the steps. Now, move towards the nose. Fill the empty space inside the nose by sewing back and forth. Make the border of the nose using back stitching. Now, we will work on the mouth. Embroider using back stitching. When you're done, move towards the bottom point of the nose. Start on the other side. When running out of thread during sewing, grab 1 or 2 fibers from the fabric. Knot the thread. Make another knot in the same spot. Put the needle towards the body, away from the thread, and cut the thread as short as possible. Now, let's start on the cheeks. Use the no-knot loop technique. Stitch and insert the needle through the loop. Apply back stitching for the circles for the cheek. Secure a knot. We will now move on to the tail. Mark 7 centimeters from the bottom. Place the fabric with the outside facing up. We will now sew the tail using a back stitching 2 centimeters from the edge of the tail fabric. Place the needle between the tail fabric, the body fabric, and pull it through. The knot of the thread will be between the body fabric and the tail fabric. Use back stitching around the tail. Don't finish sewing. Leave an 1/2 inch opening to add fiber fill. Add fiber fill. Finish stitching. When sewing is finished, gently lift the tail fabric. Pull out the needle between the tail fabric and the body fabric. Knot the thread. Make another knot in the same spot. Then, take the needle away and cut. Let's give the doll some clothes now. face the two pieces of clothing fabric together. The outer side of the fabrics should be faced inwards. Mark the arm openings 2 cm from the top and 4.5 cm openings. Mark the sewing line on the sides. The stitch line is 8 cm from the end of the fabric by the opening hole. Fix the fabrics. Leave 4.5 cm opening on each side of the fabric for the arms and sew the other for areas. These openings will be the armholes for the doll. Stitch along the drawing lines. Use running stitching for this part. Running stitch. Turn the clothes inside out. Fold the seam allowance of armhole opening inward by 8 centimeters. Mark the sewing line 5 centimeters away from the opening edge. Draw the sewing line on the other side as well. Apply the running stitching around the arm opening to fix the seam allowance. Running stitching. Stitch both ends, top and bottom, several times for reinforcement of the area. Secure a knot after stitching. Repeat the previous steps and finish the other side as well. We will now stitch the hem. Fold the seam allowance inwards 8 centimeters. Fold the seam allowance evenly. Use running stitching for both top and bottom seams. Stitch line is 0.5 cm away from the edge. Running stitching. Finish by pulling the needle from the outside of the close-in, and not the thread. Finish the bottom hem in same way as the top. Let's dress the doll now. Good job on finishing your organic handmade doll. Hope to see you again soon.